This is why Merab Dvalishvili is not a top 15 fighter of all time. This video is inspired by Lucas Tracys, who in his GOAT list at the end of last year said that Merab Dvalishvili is the bantamweight GOAT and is also the number 13 best fighter ever in the GOAT conversation, which I completely disagree. And listen, I like Lucas, guys. He's one of the inspirations for me starting my channel, but I got to call it what it is. Merab in the top 15 is an absolute disgrace, and I'm going to absolutely tear this argument apart in 10-7 Merab in this video because I think he's absolutely garbage, and he's one of the worst modern-day champions we've ever seen, and I don't care about his 11-fight win streak, but yeah, I'm here to slander Merab, so let's not waste any time. Let's get right into it, starting off with his resume, because I need to downplay all this talk of domination, quote-unquote, by Merab. Let's have a look at it. His resume, right? He dominated Aldo, right? Went 0 for 16 on takedowns and held him up against the fence. That's an out-of-prime 35-year-old Jose Aldo. Say what you want. Jose Aldo was not in his prime at 35 years old. Merab had an absolutely embarrassing performance. Everybody across the board thought so. Whenever Mario Bautista did the same exact thing and held Jose Aldo against the fence to win the fight, the entire fan base turned on him. But when Merab does it, it's okay, right? Nobody brings this up anymore. Merab's an absolute coward. He stalled the fight against Aldo. He didn't actually want to fight. He just wanted to clinch up and play patty cake against the fence. Went 0 for 16 on takedowns. One of the worst dominant performances I've ever seen. People also talk about how he absolutely destroyed Cejudo. Man, he was out grappling the Olympian, but nobody talks about how Cejudo rocked him and could have went for a finish in the second round, but didn't. He did not dominate Cejudo. He did to some degree, I guess, but it was a 29-28 decision win for Merab. By no means was this an absolute ass whooping. You know what I'm saying? And then the Sean O'Malley fight. Here's a good point. So whenever he fought Sean O'Malley, right? He won the fight comfortably, and I agree that he won, but people drew the narrative that, dude, Merab just ran through O'Malley, man. It was a domination. It was not a domination. It was arguably his worst performance to date. He looked terrible in that fight. To be fair, O'Malley looked terrible too. They both looked terrible, but Merab had terrible striking. He has no gas to go and try and finish the fight. He just wants to hug Sean O'Malley, knee him in the thigh, push him up against the fence, and the guy who supposedly has the best cardio in the entire division, which I agree he does, loses the 5th round against Sean O'Malley. Is insane to me. That was not a dominant performance whatsoever. The only dominant performance that Merab has had in recent memory, in my opinion, is against Petr Yan. That was a 50-45 domination. I will give him that. But this whole narrative that he's just dominating everybody and just cardioing his way to dominant decisions, I just don't buy it. It's not true. It never has been true. He's just not that good, guys. I'm just going to keep it 100. I don't think Merab is all that great. I mean, look at his losses. He's lost to guys like Ricky Simone, who's a decent guy, but Frankie Saenz, dude, Frankie Saenz is terrible. I mean, this guy's losing the guys who have a combined 13-10 record in the UFC. That's his 2 losses. I get he's on an 11-fight win streak, but let's not forget that he lost to 2 absolute bums. And yeah, man, it's embarrassing. I am ashamed to watch UFC in 2025 and say that we have a guy like Merab Dvalishvili as champion. I really am. And just looking at this on his resume alone, this is his 4 best wins by far, or his 3 best wins. If you include Petr Yan, I didn't include it because this was supposed to like break down the arguments that his wins are dominant. But Petr Yan win was a legit dominant win. He 50-45 Petr Yan, spam takedowns the entire fight, showed the sloppiest wrestling, but it didn't matter because his cardio was so good. Just broke Petr Yan's rhythm the entire fight and beat him. But if you, like I said, man, he's not beating the best version of Aldo, and he didn't look great doing it. 0 for 16 on takedowns, just held him up against the fence. He gets rocked by a 37-year-old Cejudo. Not a good look. And like he loses 2 rounds to Sean O'Malley, in my opinion. Arguably, nearly got finished 2 times in that fight, especially in the 5th round. And so, in my opinion, this whole narrative that Merab just dominated the division is just not true, man. It never was true. His fighting style is not as dominant as people make it out to be. It's just cardio and takedowns. Oh, it's so frustrating because you already know they're gonna have guys in the comments that say, "Dude, if he's not that good, then how did he become an 11-fight win streak and become champion?" Because that's how powerful EPO is, okay? That's how powerful EPO is. I'll leave it at that. But yeah, looking at his resume, these are his best wins. He also has a win over Marlon Moraes, who went on a 7-fight losing streak, all finishes to end his career. I don't rate that win. Who else did he beat? John Dodson. Ooh, John Dodson, the former 18-time UFC champion. No, John Dodson's mid too. He's not that great. Like, I'm sorry, but outside of his last 4, Merab's faced bums, man. He hasn't faced that good of competition. He just hasn't. Let's get on to the next slide, because this is where I'm going to absolutely grill him. This is my biggest issue with Merab, and another reason why you cannot include him in the top 15 fighters of all time, outside of his wins having asterisks to him, because he didn't dominate a 35-year-old Aldo and couldn't even take him down, and he lost 2 rounds against Sean O'Malley, which fair enough, it's Sean O'Malley, and he beat Petr Yan fairly, and then he got rocked by Cejudo. So his fights are sloppy, they're not great. He doesn't. Merab never looks impressive, in my opinion. I'd never watch a Merab fight and say, wow, dude, I'm impressed. Even during the Petr Yan fight, I saw a guy spamming takedowns that didn't want to fight. I didn't see a guy that was like, wow, dude, this guy is so impressive, man. I'm just not impressed. Yes, I am 100% hating, and yes, I'm going to 100% own the slander of Merab. He's just not proved himself with title wins or title defenses either, in my opinion, to be in the top 15 GOATs of all time. I know Lucas Tracys likes to say that title wins are not everything. And I agree, but the fact that he has, one title win? This guy cannot be a top 15 fighter of all time and have 1 title win. That is an absolutely absurd argument. He has 0 title defenses, 1 title win, 10 fights with, oh man, I'll get to that in the next slide. The only record he holds is the most takedowns attempted in a fight, which speaks to how garbage his wrestling is. He spammed 49 takedowns against Petr Yan, and people across the board in the MMA community, including other big YouTubers and media, were not impressed. It's like, dude, okay, you spam 49 takedowns. What does that say about how garbage your wrestling is? This guy supposedly has some of the most dominant wrestling in the entire division, but he has to spam 49 takedowns? If he was a good wrestler, he wouldn't have to shoot 49 takedowns. He could shoot 3 takedowns and keep the guy down. Even guys like Khabib didn't need to spam 49 takedowns to win fights. Maybe 10. Merab shooting 49 takedowns, and why he's shooting takedowns, I'll get to that in the next slide. But yeah, in terms of accomplishment, 1 title win, no title defenses, no finishes. There's no way you could have this guy in the top 15 all time. There's no way. I don't even think he's the bantamweight GOAT. I know that in other videos I have said so, but I'm retracting that immediately. I think that Dominic Cruz is still the bantamweight GOAT. It's close, and you can argue there's no definitive bantamweight GOAT, and I'll be okay with that. But if I had to pick someone, if you're including WEC, which I do, I would say it's Dominic Cruz. Maybe if you only include UFC, you could say Merab by who he beat. But even then, man, his wins and the way he's winning them, it's not that impressive. I'm not impressed by your performance, Merab. I'm just not. I just don't think he holds enough accomplishments to say that this guy's a top 15 fighter of all time. Let's get on to the next slide, which is going to be my biggest point I want to drive home. And the thing that people don't talk about enough is his skill and fighting ability. He has some of, if not the worst striking in the entire top 10 of bantamweight. It's terrible. The only reason he's able to outstrike anybody in the entire top 10 is because he just spams cardio and takedowns and then lands little pitter-pat shots. He's not actually outstriking anybody. He's just fighting like an absolute coward. Some of the worst striking. He doesn't possess any power in his hands. Who is this guy knocked down in the UFC? Has he even got a knockdown? Did he knock down Marlon Moraes? Maybe, but outside of that, who's he knocked down in the UFC? He has no submission ability whatsoever. Has he even attempted a submission in his entire UFC career? What was that guillotine against O'Malley? Was that even considered a submission attempt? He was more just holding position. And yeah, he doesn't try to finish fights. He just cardios his way to a decision. 11 UFC wins, 10 decision wins. His only finish coming against Marlon Moraes. Who hasn't finished Marlon Moraes? Marlon Moraes was a punching bag at the end of his career. He got finished by everybody. Corey Sandhagen finished him. Rob Font finished him. Merab finished him. Henry Cejudo finished him. He was literally just getting finished by everybody. And not to mention, that same guy, Marlon Moraes, the absolute wash can he was at the time, he almost finished Merab. He had Merab the fight about to get stopped, and Merab came back to get a TKO. Respect, but by no means was that impressive. And if you look at the way that Moraes' career ended, it's not a good look for a guy like Moraes to be rocking and nearly finishing Merab. And this is the bantamweight champion. Like, I think it's an absolute embarrassment that this guy's bantamweight champion. He, skill for skill, is one of the worst fighters in the top 10. I'm telling you guys, cardio carries this guy. If he didn't have cardio, he would even be. If he had the cardio of, let's say, Sean O'Malley, he wouldn't even be a top 10 fighter, in my opinion. I know that's cope. Go ahead and say it. Dude, you're just coping, dude. Take away his best asset and he wouldn't be good, obviously. But yeah, my point is cardio carries his entire style. He has sloppy striking. He has no submissions. He has no... The only thing Merab has is decent takedowns, and decent is a stretch because he has to spam them. They're so bad. He has decent takedowns and he has cardio. He doesn't have striking. He doesn't have submissions. He doesn't have BJJ. He doesn't have a good chin. And he fights to decision every single time. I mean, you can, if you want to win a parlay, if you know Merab's going to win, just bet on him by decision, you know? Or prop bet, as they call it. Bet on Merab by decision. Because if he's going to win a fight, there's literally a 99% chance it's going to be into a decision. I mean, he's going to 10 decision wins and 11 UFC wins, 10 decisions across the board. And the only guy he finished happened to be one of the most finishable fighters in bantamweight history in Marlon Moraes, who got finished like 7-8 times at the end of his career. So it's just embarrassing, man. You look at the top 10 of bantamweight and tell me that Merab Dvalishvili is the most impressive guy there. And he's champion. I don't see it, man. I think Umar is a better version of him all around. Better wrestling, better striking. The only thing he can hold over Umar, in my opinion, is better cardio. And we'll talk about the cardio thing in the next slide, because there's a reason he has that cardio, and I'm 99% sure of why that reason is. But yeah, man, I just can't. I am a certified proud Bilal too, but Merab Dvalishvili hater. I'm not impressed by anything he does. His striking sucks. His grappling sucks. His takedowns are frustrating to watch because he just spams them. He's not. The thing I don't like about guys like Merab is he's not in there for a fight. He's in there for a decision fest and to hold you against the cage. He doesn't want to fight. Merab, don't get it twisted. He doesn't want to fight. When have you seen Merab actually want to fight, so to speak? Like, man, Merab, that was an absolute barn burner. Never. Because he just wants to hold you against the cage and kiss you on the back. Because he's fruity. Either way. And he's got a jacked up nose to add to that. This guy looks like an absolute goblin. Oh, man. I'm just throwing personal insults because I truly cannot stand this guy. Like, I cannot stand anything about Merab. And, yeah. Keep in mind, guys, like I said, I like Lucas, but he has Merab as number 13 in his GOAT list. There's no way this guy's number 13. He might not even be top 30. I wouldn't put him in my top 30. He's maybe like 35. He's got a long way to go. But yeah, skill and fighting ability, it's an absolute embarrassment. He's just not skilled. Like, skill for skill, if you break down Merab's, and not to go Anthony Smith on paper, but if you look at his skills on paper, some of the worst striking in the top 10, no submission threat, no knockout threat, terrible boxing, terrible kickboxing, susceptible to kicks. Literally, if this guy was not blasting EPO and doing steroids to cardio his way to a decision every single win, he would not be on an 11-fight win streak. He'd not be champion, and he wouldn't even be in the top 10. Let's get on to the last slide, which is potential steroid use. I think Merab Dvalishvili is 100% on EPO, or performance-enhancing drugs. First of all, he's 34 years old. Keep in mind, look at Merab, guys. He's 34. This guy looks 47. Look at Merab and tell me he looks 34. Steroid use is known to age you quicker. Look at John Jones. This guy looks like an absolute grandpa despite only being 37. Gray hairs in his beard. Looks like an absolute grandpa. Looks 52 because this dude's been blasting Turinabol up his ass his entire career. And Merab's the same thing. 34, looks 47. I mean, like, even Guru said he looks 70. I don't know what else I need to say, man. This guy is on EPO. He's on the sauce 100%. He even slipped up and admitted it at a press conference whenever he said, EPO. If you don't believe me, go watch it. Go on YouTube and type in Merab admitting to using EPO at a press conference. He slips up, had a Freudian slip, admitted to it. People cope and say, oh, dude, he could have been saying something else. No, he 100% was saying that. And I'm going to take that for what it is. Also, the whole Umar thing. This guy cried the entire time. Umar doesn't deserve a title shot, blah, blah, blah. He'd rather fight a guy he's already 50-45 again instead of fighting another guy who he knows is going to whip his ass. He knows he's going to lose to Umar. He knows it. And that's why when you look at the lead up to his fight and you look at his confidence, never does he say he's going to destroy Umar. He said it's going to be a tough fight. I know he's good. And he continuously says that Umar disrespected him, although all Umar did was go on Twitter and say that Merab was avoiding him. And it was true. Merab was avoiding him. He was calling out guys like Sean O'Malley. He was calling out Petr Yan, calling out Figueiredo, everybody but Umar. And he was ready to fight in December in a rematch with O'Malley, but whenever it came to Umar, he wanted to wait all the way until March. He didn't want to fight Umar right away. I'm glad the UFC forced his hand and made him fight Umar because he needs to fight Umar. He's the rightful number one contender. Look, at the end of the day, say what you want about top 10 wins. If there was another clear-cut contender, if Figueiredo would have won, give it to him. If Petr Yan didn't get 50-45 and it was a close fight against Merab, give it to him. If O'Malley didn't just lose to him, give it to him. But who else is there? Yes, you can argue that Umar only has one win in the top 10 against Corey Sandhagen, but he dominated Corey Sandhagen, 50-45, easy win for him. So it's like, what else? Who else is there if it's not going to be... You want to just sideline Merab so Umar can get another win? I mean, I don't think anybody else beats him, so that wouldn't be a bad thing. But my point is, this whole video is to say that Merab Dvalishvili is not a top 15 fighter of all time. He ain't even close. And Lucas, I love you, man. Like I said, I love you. Lucas Glazy, Merab's not a top 15 fighter, brother. It's not even close. Look at his wins and how he wins. He has one title win, brother. I know you don't value title wins high, and title defenses aren't that in the bag of chips to you, dude, but you have to take at face value that this guy only has one title win, and he's not been impressive in his run, man. Name one impressive Merab fight. Even the Petr Yan fight, it's not impressive, dude, to spam takedowns against a guy who says downloads the data until round 20, you know? Oh, man, I can't wait to see the comments on this video because I already know they're going to be the Merab fanboys in the comments just saying, dude, you're so salty about Merab. And I am. I'm salty that a guy somehow who has little to no skill has made it all the way to championship, blasting EPO and spamming cardio. I mean, look at this guy against Ricky Simone. Whenever he got submitted against Ricky Simone, this guy was blasting so much EPO that even though his body was out or his head was out, his body was still kicking. The bro was shooting EPO out of his ass against Ricky Simone before he got submitted. I don't know what other way I can put it. So, yeah, man. This is my take on Merab Dvalishvili not being a top 15 fighter of all time for multiple reasons. Just not a very skilled fighter to any degree in terms of being a great mixed martial artist. I think he blasts steroids. Go ahead and use the argument that everybody does. I guess on paper he's never tested positive, but he looks like he's 70 and he's 34. There's that. Also, his 4 great wins against Aldo Aldo, Cejudo, and O'Malley. Oh my God, dude, he dominates. It wasn't domination. He got rocked by Cejudo. He went 0 for 16 against Aldo and held him against the fence. And against O'Malley, he lost 2 rounds and arguably could have been finished in the 5th round. So it's like people drawing the narrative that Merab is somehow this domination machine, cardio machine, which he is a cardio machine because that's literally all he has. I just don't buy it. Lucas, this goes out to you, brother. At Lucas Tracys, Merab Dvalishvili is not a top 15 fighter of all time, and I'll leave it at that. Thank you guys for watching. Let me know what you think in the comments. Peace out.